Right, page 175, SD 38.6. Now today we're just going to finish this volume. 3 short sutta, very simple stories, but very inspiring. 3 stories about love. The first 3 suttas are shown on the board. We have the Piya Malika Sutta, S 3.8. This is on page 175. And then the second sutta, related sutta, is Pasenadi Piya Sutta, page 182. This is reference is S 3.4. So the first one is about Malika, the queen of Pasenadi. The second sutta is about Pasenadi himself, the king Pasenadi. And then the closing sutta is about self-reliance, Attarakita Sutta, S 3.5. So they're all from Samyutta Nikaya. King Pasenadi was one of the leading kings in ancient India. Very powerful king, but very tragic king. He died quite sadly, betrayed by his own servant. This is the life and lot of kings. They maintain power, but sometimes they can't do it and they lose their power. Betrayed by the very people who were supposed to serve them. But while he lived, he was a very devoted follower of the Buddha. In fact, in a sense, I might say he knew the Buddha for a very long time, since they were both very young. In fact, the first meeting is also recorded, where the young king who meets the young Buddha asks him, something to the effect of, "You're so young, how can you be Buddha?" So this is called the Hara Sutta. Then the Buddha replies and says, "Well, you should not look down on the young prince." I mean, in a sense, the Buddha was hinting to the king that you are yourself a young prince, maybe probably late 20s, early 30s. So it says, even a young prince can grow up, mature to be a very powerful king. We should not look down on a small snake, but the snake can grow up into a very dangerous serpent. We should not look down on a young monk, but this monk after old and wise. Not to look down on youth, in other words. So this was the teaching when they first met. And in between, there's so many other teachings. Sometimes the Buddha would give teachings to the king. Sometimes the king would come to the Buddha very inspired and say, "Oh, this thought came to me," right? And he would share this thought with the Buddha. Then this king has a very beautiful wife by the name of Malika. And one day he asked Malika about love. He says, tell me how much you love me. Who do you love the most? Something like that. So it's quite a humorous story, but very deep. The significance of the story is very important to us. Let's look at the story and then I'll comment some more. So from this story we also begin to know the personality of the king himself. So the title is Piya Malika Sutta. The title is Malika, but there are a number of Malika Suttas, so we put this ambiguator prefix Piya, loving, Malika Sutta, S 3.8. The discourse on Malika, on the beloved, page 180. Originating at Savatthi, thus have I heard. At one time the Blessed One was residing residing at or in Anathapindika's park in Jeta's Grove near Savatthi. Now at that time, Raja Pasenadi of Kosala, together with Queen Malika, had gone to the roof terrace of the royal palace. So from here we have this interesting idea. One of their buildings in the palace It's got a flat roof, like a roof garden. The Indians have a habit of, especially on full moon nights, they will go up to the roof garden and they just sit there in the bright moonlight, enjoying the moonlight. It's really beautiful. The moon is full and the sky is clear. The brightness is so clear, so they feel very happy. And there's a number of suttas open up like that in this beautiful scenery with the full moon in the sky, and then the king sits on the top of this garden terrace. And for example, the Samanyapala Sutta opens in the same way, and Ajatasattu, son of King Bimbisara, was so happy, so inspired. He said, "Wow, look at this! It's such a beautiful, bright night. This is the kind of night when followers of the teachers will come to the temple, or to the center rather. And normally this is a forest. They go and listen to the monks or the priests, or rather the teachers giving teachings. So this King Ajatasattu wonder which teacher he should go to that evening. I hear that the king is sitting in this beautiful moonlight scene, talking to the wife. So you've got to remember this scenery. Sometimes we forget this beautiful scenery, So the king is in a very romantic mood, if you like. So he's going to ask this very interesting question to the queen. Verse 3. Then Raja Pasenadi of Kosala said this to the queen: Malika, is there or not one who is more beloved than your own self? Here you already have an idea. This king, he's a bit of a salty character, if you like. Someone, well, he's a very pious person, very religious, very devoted to the Buddha. When he comes to see the Buddha, he would bow down right at the feet of the Buddha and kiss the Buddha's feet. He is so devoted in that sense. So in other words, he is a very full of feelings, if you like. So he asked the queen, is there someone you love more than yourself? Now he was hoping that the queen would say, yes, your majesty, or yes, dear, I love you more than I love myself. The king would be very happy, Maybe give her some reward or something. But then, this is where, again, ironically, we find it's the woman who's the wiser. So Malika gives quite a surprising answer. Malika, contrary to what the king expects, Malika says in verse 4, there is no one, Maharaja, dearer to me than myself. Now, this is a very dangerous answer to give to the king, However, Malika is quite safe because Malika gives another counter question. There are two answers here, and the second one is very significant. The second sentence says, is there, Maharaja, anyone more dear to you than yourself? Okay. So this is where you got a very wise queen says, no, there's no one I love other than myself. Is there someone, what about you? Is there someone that you love more than yourself? Okay. Now you may ask, why did she answer in this way? One strong reason, one possible reason is that she has been learning. She has been receiving instructions from the Buddha. I mean, if you do loving kindness, you know very well, self-love is a very powerful love. Whether you love yourself or you hate yourself, self-love is still the key idea of why we are alive. So it's easiest to start with ourselves in loving kindness. What about people who don't love themselves? Well, this is the irony. See? Even though they do not like themselves, the strange reasoning or this idea is that I'm not good enough for myself. So they have this very high idea of themselves that they did not, cultivate those qualities that they deserve their own love. So they because of some other situations. So again, in other words, self-love is the paramount kind of love. It begins there. Because if you don't love yourself, if it's really self-hate, the person will destroy himself. So if he doesn't destroy himself, he's still alive. He says, I hate myself. It's just that this person feels that he has not done something good that is really worthy of self-love. Yeah? So that's why in loving kindness we say, I accept myself just as I am. I forgive myself those things which I've done, or things I've done which I should not do. In other words, you got to accept yourself. Self-acceptance leads to self-love. But here, of course, it's a very happy situation. Malika says, well, we all love ourselves the most. So to answer your question, I would say, I don't think there's anyone we can or should love more than ourselves. And then the king has to reply, if he's to be intelligent, he has to reply, for me too, Malika, there's no one dearer to me than yourself, right? Than myself, For me too, Malika, there's no one dearer to me than myself. So in other words, once the king says that, then he cannot contradict himself, you see. He has to agree with Malika that Malika is right. So these are how the royalty talk to each other, you see, so they don't get into trouble. By making the powerful person, the king, keep to his word. Right? You see this same situation when the same king meets the Buddha in the presence of the newly ordained Angulimala, if you remember. Angulimala gave up his serial killing ways. He has become a monk and is sitting beside the Buddha. King Bibisara come with his army. He does not know Angulimala has become a monk. Then the Buddha asks, where are you going? And the king says, well, I'm going to hunt this serial killer called Angulimala. Then the Buddha says, Your Majesty, if this Angulimala were to become a monk, how would you deal with him? The Buddha has a purpose in asking this question because there's a crowd there. These are the public witnesses. He doesn't want the king to kill Angulimala, so he has to make sure that the king keeps to his word. So the king replies, he becomes a monk, I'll respect him and protect him. So here you have an idea that the king of the country also protects the religious people in his country. And I will offer him the full supports of a monk. And then the Buddha said, this is Angulimala, so the king has to keep to his word. The king will not hurt Angulimala. And the people also will not dare to touch him because the king already declared his support. See? So this is the way how politically correct way of talking, if you like, a wise way of talking in such a way that in a gentle way, we bind people to their words in a very gentle way, using truth. There is nothing sinister, nothing underhand here. These are all upfront, in other words. Okay, so people keep with their word. So you have these two beautiful examples how the king has to keep to his word. Of course, the king is a little upset that the wife is more intelligent than he is. He gives a better answer than he. Now, we have a literature in opposite situation where things didn't work out so well. For example, when I was doing my A-levels, we did a Shakespeare play called King Lear. This is one of those tragedies, one of the really sad tragedies. I suppose second to Hamlet, maybe. Or some people might say worse than Hamlet, Where this king, he has 3 daughters. So he asked the first daughter, how much do you, tell me how you love me. And then the first daughter said, okay, I love you like this, like that. And the king said, very good, okay, you can have 1/3 of the kingdom. And the second daughter says, okay, I love you so much, and like this, like that. And then the king said, okay, you can have the 2/3 of the kingdom. And then comes the third, the youngest daughter, Cordelia. The youngest daughter happens to be probably the most intelligent, or perhaps the stupidest, depends how you look at it. She says, I don't know how to answer this question. How do you compare? How do you measure love, So, but the king insists, you must come up with something, So she came up with something. I said, well, so the king said, what do you like, And she said, well, I like salt, I like salt in my food. So I suppose I love you like salt, and the king was not very happy. So she did not get her kingdom. And to cut a long story short, such a foolish king who defined love in this way, obviously, when you grow older, the 2 daughters got together and overthrew the king. And the king even went blind, and the poor king was left with the young daughter to take care of him. So you see that sometimes the kings may not be very wise. But here, the wife is very wise and gives a good answer. Of course, coming back to the story, Pasenadi, you might say, kind of his ego was a bit bruised, you know. So he goes to see the Buddha, you know, almost like going to an old friend and say, you know, my wife's like this, you know. Verse 6. Then Pasenadi of Kosala came down from his palace and approached the Blessed One. So I suppose that same night, you know, because it's such a beautiful night. So he went to see the Buddha. Having approached the Blessed One and saluted him, he sat down at one side. Sitting thus at one side, the Raja Pasenadi of Kosala said this to the Blessed One. Here I was one day together with Queen Malika on the roof terrace of the royal palace. When I said this to Queen Malika, Malika, is there or not one who is more beloved than your own self? There's no one, Maharaja, dearer to me than myself. Is there, Maharaja, anyone more dear to you than yourself? When this was said one day, I said to Queen Malika, for me too, Malika, there is no one dearer to me than myself. Right, so this is a very interesting literary style where you find the story is repeated, the teaching is repeated. Remember again, this teaching, such teachings are not given, you don't have notes like this, it's a modern thing, you know, you have your notes with you. In the Buddha's time and for centuries after the Buddha's time, these stories are told orally. They are like shows, you know, on radio, TV, they are played, recited for the audience. So, you know, one way to instruct the audience is to repeat the message. So, and this is done very seamlessly. So first the queen says it, and then the king repeats it to the Buddha. And then the Buddha endorses the teaching. The Buddha replies, 7.3, no? When this was said, when the Buddha replies to the verse 8, then the Blessed One, having known its import at that time, uttered this verse. Sabbadisa anuparigama cetasa nevajjagga piyatarang attana kvachi evang piyo putu atta paresan tasma nahinse paramattakamo ti. Having traversed all the quarters with the mind. So here the Buddha says that he has searched the whole world, whole universe even with his mind. One surely finds none anywhere dearer than oneself. So here, in other words, same as saying, if you are to travel everywhere, you can go anywhere in the world, find that. There is no one dearer than your own self to you. Thus, for each of us, love the self the most. Therefore, one who loves the self should not harm another. Right? So this is a very important Buddhist teaching. In the Buddhist teaching is self-love is the most important love. When we talk about love, self-love is the most important. Now there are other religions who do not say that. They say that if you love another, that love is even greater. This sounds like, you know, it's so wonderful, you know. If you love someone more, you are a noble person. This is really interesting, you know, it's subject to discussion, if you like. Which way is more true? Now, of course, if you talk philosophically, there are many ways to answer, but the problem with philosophical approaches is not very useful. We're only discussing different possibilities, but not reality. But if you look at it psychologically, you cannot truly love anyone else if you do not love yourself. If you do not know love, you cannot love another person, because love is a feeling. When you love someone, you feel happy inside you. And when you feel happy inside you, you want to share this happiness with others. You're willing to give space to others. You notice when you love someone, you feel a sense of connection. You have this good feeling. If you have children, you want them to succeed, to be happy, you know, and somehow you give space to them. Whereas if I were to simply say, I love you dearer than my life, I will die for you, well, that is very nice and noble. But the reality is, if I were to die, there will be no one else to take care of you. And this poor person maybe will suffer lots of the consequences. Now let's imagine if a father or a wife or husband were to tell the spouse, I love you much, very much, I love you more than my own life, so I'll die for you. Then you're left alone. The children are left alone, right? So in Buddhism, it is easier to die than to live. Because if you live, there are things to do. You have to take care of people, you have to discharge your duties, so you need more sacrifice, more courage in living, rather than dying. Of course, when the time comes, you can stop it, all right. But if you follow the natural flow of life, if you can live, you should live because you have duties to perform. But of course, if people die in the course of duty, defending the country, defending the family, that is of course another story. But here we do not romanticize this idea that we should die for some other people, so we're heroes. Those are special cases, yes, but they are not a universal truth. The universal truth is you have to love yourself. And worse than that, if you hate yourself, then you definitely will not be able to love others. That's another extreme. So here the Buddha points to a higher truth why self-love is important. He says if you accept this truth, if you understand that we all love ourselves, then we also should accept the fact everyone else also have the same feeling. So we have to, just as we respect ourselves, we must also respect others. And what is this called? In a very simple expression, what is this? The golden rule. This is called the golden rule, found in all religions. The golden rule means I do not want other people to do this thing to me. By the same token, I should not do this thing to other people also. Right? So this is put in two ways. One is put in a negative way. What I do not want people to do to me, I should not do to others. It can be put in a positive way also. What I want people to do to me, I also should do to others. The good things. Right? So you notice this story is not just about love, but the Buddha brings it to a higher level of universal moral virtue, if you like. The idea of the what do you call this? Golden mean. Okay, any question on this? It's quite clear and direct.
You told the story of Angulimala. Wasn't it the king was King Pasenadi?
Yeah, King Pasenadi, same king.
Yeah, but you mentioned Bimbisara.
No, that was another story, Samanyapala Sutta. In the Samanyapala Sutta, it was Ajatasattu. Ajatasattu is the son of Bimbisara.
Talking about Angulimala.
Angulimala should be King Pasenadi, of course. But if I mention Ajatasattu, should be correct. Okay, any other question on this? Yeah. So this is quite a short story to reflect on. So you have a very wise queen there. Right, so now the next story is on page 182. Pasenadi Piya Sutta. Here the original name of the sutta is Piya Sutta. There are a number of Piya Suttas. So we put the prefix Pasenadi in front. The discourse to Pasenadi on the Beloved, S 3.4. The theme here is that again saying the self is the dearest to all. So another way of saying this self-love is universal. In a sense, you can say on the darker side, we're all selfish people. So in a sense, it is a universal truth. People tend to be selfish. And you can't change that on a simple level. Everywhere in the world, you see people think of themselves first. The moment we step out of this place, why are there traffic rules? Because everybody think of themselves. Everybody wants to go first. So you got to have traffic rules. And so everyone drives safely. So if we accept that, people are selfish. On the positive side, if I care about myself, other people care about themselves too, so I should not do whatever I do not want people to do to me, I should not do to others too. So based on that argument, we need moral virtues, we need rules, we need the law, we need order. So here we have another teaching here, where this time the king speaks to the Buddha. Page 183, originating at Savatthi, sitting at one side, Raja Pasenadi of Kosala said this to the present one. Here, Bhante, while I was alone in seclusion or solitary retreat, this thought arose in my mind. And so this where the king either happened to be alone by himself, or he practices what the Buddha advised, to spend time by yourself, just at peace, just to be quiet. It can be any time, you just sit quietly by yourself, just be at peace, doing some meditation, loving kindness, or just letting your mind think of happy thoughts. So when he was by himself, this thought arose in him. Who now loves himself? Who now does not love himself? Right? So here it's an extension of the previous story. You see that the way this Sutta discovery is structured, you find when we get this related Sutta, put them together, when you study one after the other, you see the connection. So in the first story, the queen, the king asked the queen, is there someone you love more than yourself? The queen said no. Here maybe the king talked about that, Okay, we all love ourselves. So what about others? Are there those who do not love themselves? How do you define this? And then this thought came to him. Bhante, this occurred to me. Those who conduct themselves badly through the body, conduct themselves badly through speech, conduct themselves badly through the mind. Even though they may speak thus, we love ourselves, but they truly do not love themselves. Okay. Wait, here, there's a bit more. What is that reason? What is the reason for this? For what the unloving would do to the unloved, they themselves do that to themselves. Therefore, they love not themselves. Now, this is a very interesting conclusion that the king comes to. So obviously the king has been listening to the Buddha's teaching. He goes to listen quite often. So this is the reflection. He has put together through his own reflection. This is called personal reflection. Right? That is why sometimes we just sit quietly and then this Dharma teachings come to us. The Dharma teaching arises by itself to us. So to him, who is the one who doesn't love himself? This person does evil deeds or bad deeds through body, speech and mind, the three doors of karma. So if you do bad things through your body, speech or mind, then you do not love yourself. You don't have self-love. Why? Because those are the things that people who do not like you will do to you. They want you to feel unhappy. They want you to suffer. They want you to say terrible things. They want you to think miserable, act miserable, speak miserable. So if you're doing it to yourself, then you don't love yourself, right? So you see the argument there. Right? We are just doing what an enemy would do to us. So this is a very interesting argument about why we should be good. We should be good because if we're happy that way, and people don't like us, will not do that to us. And then the positive side, positive aspect. But those who conduct themselves well through the body, conduct themselves well through speech, conduct themselves well through the mind, even though they may speak thus, we love not ourselves, but they do love them, but they truly do love themselves. What is the reason for this? For what the loving would do to the loved, they themselves do to themselves. Therefore, they love themselves. So here again, same argument. If someone is kind, someone loves you, someone is kind to you, whatever they say, whatever they think, say or do, they want you to be happy. So in the mind we say, oh, may my child be well and happy, may my child be safe, be healthy, may my child succeed. In mind we think that way. In our actions also, we do things that will make the child happy, safe, and successful. Our speech also, even though we may scold our children, but the intention is always to make sure this person is safe. So notice here, the person may say, oh, I don't have this love, I don't love myself. Right? But even though it says that, that is still based on self-love. So a parent may scold a child, but the parent still loves the child. Right? So there's a moment of anger, but it's not hate. So this is another thing worth reflecting on. I mean, this is the text from what, based on which I mentioned earlier, that self-love is a universal feeling. Okay, so the king reflects this way. So this, you have this, the king, reporting to the Buddha. Then the Buddha responds. 5.1. So it is, Maharaja. So it is, Maharaja. Now here again you have another very interesting literary device where the Buddha repeats what King Pasenadi says, and so the audience hears it twice. The teaching is reinforced. Those Maharaja who conduct themselves badly to the body, conduct themselves badly through speech, conduct themselves badly through the mind, they love not themselves. Even though they may speak to us, we love ourselves, but they truly do not love themselves. What is the reason for this? For Maharaja, what the unloving would do to the unloved, they themselves do that to themselves. Therefore, they love not themselves. Those Maharaja who conduct themselves well through the body, conduct themselves well through speech, conduct themselves well through the mind, they are those who love themselves. It is correct if I quote. Even though they may speak to us, we love not ourselves, but they truly do love themselves. Notice this line. They may say they do not like themselves. They may even say, I hate myself, but the reality is, I mean, if you say I hate myself, that means it's possible to love yourself. It's just that they feel they're not worthy of that love. What is the reason for this? For Maharaja, what the loving would do to the loved, they themselves do that to themselves. Therefore, they do love themselves. Then the Buddha closes with a set of verses. This is called Udana verses. Atanance piyang janya nanang papena samyuje nahitan sulabang bhukti sukhang dukkan dukkata karina. If one knows oneself as dear or loving, one would not yoke oneself to evil. For not easily obtained is happiness by the evildoer, the bad doer. Akanta kena di panasa jahato manusang bawang kinhi tasa sakang hoti kincha adaya gacchati kinchasa anugang hoti chaya wa anapayini. When one is seized by the endmaker, here meaning death, when one leaves the human state, what can one call to be truly one's own, or take when one moves on? What is it that follows one like a shadow, never living? Right here, the shadow is something that doesn't disappear, it's always with you. And then the answer. Upo punyang cha pa pancha yang macho kurute ida tanhi tasa sakang hoti tangwa adaya gacchati tangwasa anugang hoti chaya wa anapayini. So what is it that follows us wherever we go, even after death? After death we don't take anything with us, but these things follow us. Answer: both the good and the bad that are mortal does here. This is what is truly one's own. This only one takes along with one. This indeed is what follows one, like a shadow, never living. So in other words, we don't bring this body along after death, but good and bad karma follows us. Tasma kareya kalyanang nichayam samparayikam punyani paralokasmin patita honti paninanti. Therefore, one should do good, building it up for the hereafter or the future state. Merits a support in the other world for living beings arising there. So you notice some of these verses also appear elsewhere. These are very well-known ancient verses. So here the Buddha talks, the king starts off by talking about how we act. If we act in a positive way, then we love ourselves. If we do bad things, we don't love ourselves. Then the Buddha again points out a higher level of the meaning. Right? The Buddha says, what follows you after death? It's your karma. So all these things that you do, good and bad, not only defines your self-love, but these are also things that follow you after your present life, and it defines your future life also. So here again you see the idea of love going deeper. Okay? Questions here? Alright, now we take one step deeper into this teaching. The third sutta, Atta-rakkhita Sutta. S3.5. The previous one was S3.4, so this is the consecutive suttas. Sometimes the sutta is given as Attana-rakkhita Sutta, the discourse on the self-protector. How do you protect yourself? Here again you have the same king, Pasenadi, reflecting during one of these quiet moments, originating in Savatthi. Sitting at one side, Raja Pasenadi of Kosala said this to the Blessed One. Here, Bhante, while I was alone in seclusion or solitary retreat, this thought arose in my mind. Who now protects themselves? Who leaves themselves unprotected? So you have this king, it's quite philosophical. Right? Then Bhante, it occurred to me, those who conduct themselves badly to the body, conduct themselves badly to speech, conduct themselves badly to the mind, leave themselves unprotected. So here is the same idea but different theme. The previous sutta, those who commit bad karma to body, speech or mind don't love themselves. By the same token, they also leave themselves in danger, unprotected. Even though a company of elephants or a company of cavalry or a company of chariot troops or a company of infantry may protect them, still they leave themselves unprotected. In other words, the king is saying they may have the fourfold army, Chaturanga. Those days, when we talk about the army, there are four aspects of the army. Then the army is complete. So even you have the army around you, you're not protected. By the way, this word Chaturanga, from this you get Chatur. And the Malay word for chess is Chatur. So chess is a war game. So Chatur means four aspects of the army. So what is the reason? For what reason? For what protection is external, for their protection is external, not internal. Therefore they leave themselves unprotected. Now, this is a very interesting reflection, isn't it? External protection is not safe. Internal protection is the safest. And then the positive statement, section 4.1. But those who conduct themselves well to the body, conduct themselves well through speech, conduct themselves well through the mind, even though
They are those.
sorry? They are those who protect themselves. Right? So in other words, if they conduct themselves to good karma, body, speech and mind, then they protect themselves. Even though no company of elephants, no company of cavalry, no company of chariots or chariot troops, no company of infantry protect them, still they do protect themselves. But what is the reason for this? For their protection is internal, not external. Therefore, they do protect themselves. This word internal also means to yourself, right? So in other words, it's really protected. The idea is, if you want to protect yourself, don't depend on others. You have to protect yourself. Now here again we have another interesting story in the Dhammapada, where you have this circus performers, teacher and pupil. They're doing acrobatic acts, I suppose things like the students to stand on the teacher's shoulder, and then the teacher stand on his shoulder, and then they climb up this pole and start doing all kinds of tricks. So the teacher told this young apprentice, says, I'll take care of you, you take care of me. I look after your safety, you look after my safety. Okay, this is what the teacher said. But here again, you have a very interesting twist, It shows the younger person is the more wiser. The student replies, tells the teacher, says, no teacher, I think it's better if you protect yourself and I protect myself. We each look after ourselves, we're safer that way. And the teacher says, okay, that's a wise, because the teacher also is kind and accepts that. Wow. Right? So here you have a similar theme, self-protection. If you don't protect yourself, no one else will protect you. The Buddha replies, the Buddha agrees and endorses what the king says. So it is Maharaja, so it is Maharaja. Those who conduct themselves badly to the body, conduct themselves badly to speech, conduct themselves badly to the mind, they leave themselves unprotected. Even though a company of elephants, a company of cavalry, a company of chariots or chariot troops, or a company of infantry may protect them, still they leave themselves unprotected. For what reason? For Maharaja, their protection is external, not internal. Therefore, they leave themselves unprotected. But Maharaja, for those who conduct themselves well to the body, conduct themselves well to speech, conduct themselves well to the mind, they are those who protect themselves, even though no company of elephants, no company of cavalry, no company of chariots or chariot troops, no company of infantry protect them. Still they do protect themselves. For what reason? For their protection is internal, not external. They do protect themselves. So we're talking about self-protection here, right? And then the Buddha closes with a verse. Kayena sangvaro sadhu, sadhu vachaya sangvaro, manasa sangvaro sadhu, sadhu sabata sangvaro, sabata sangvuto lajji, rakito ti pavujjati iti. Good is restraint of the body, right? What's restraint of the body? First three precepts. Plus, generally, keeping the body calm. In fact, that's called a developed body. Good is restraint of speech, the right speeches. Good is the restraint of the mind. Qualities of the mind is found in the first two factors of the Eightfold Path. Restraint is everywhere good. The conscientious, here conscientious, the Pali word is sangvutto. You can also translate as the restraint. Okay, is everywhere restraint. Conscientious is lajji, sorry. Lajji means who knows shame. Who here, my understanding is a combination of moral shame, someone who is morally virtuous, someone who is careful with actions. So here that's why it's translated as conscientious. They're everywhere restrained, sangvutto, sangvutto lajji. In other words, you think carefully before you act. As long as you do that, then you're safe. Rakito ti pavujjati, he is said to be protected. So this is behavior in terms of bigger society, social behavior. We're not talking about creativity here. Creativity is different. Like if you're an artist and so on, you just let your mind free and the feeling takes over and then you create beauty. Okay, that is more like philosophy, creating beauty. This is internally. But here is when you deal with people, you have to be careful in this way, right? So whereas in meditation, you let go of the mind, free it. The mind, meditation is letting go. So that's another kind of higher level of restraint, if you like. Restrain ironically by letting go. In other words, not allowing other things to take over our consciousness, so to speak, except peace and silence in manner of speaking. Okay, so any thoughts or any question to ask?
Comparing to the teaching of non-self,
Yeah.
would I say non-self is a different level or?
Okay, non-self. Yeah, non-self is a kind of like a higher level of practice, because here the Buddha is talking about generally. If you look at everyone out there, whether they know Dharma or not, one universal thing is we all can agree people all care for themselves first. And in a sense, that can be good. So here the Buddha is not saying, okay, we use this for bad, we can unite and kill somebody. Here rather it says, since people are like that, what good can come out of this? So the Buddha says, well, since we all love each other, love ourselves most, so we've got to respect others. So he uses the same argument for good, you see. So this is how, in a sense, in philosophy, ethics, some of the big argument, ethics, why should we be good? Why should we respect others? It's a big argument, over centuries of philosophy. So this is one of the most famous of arguments, philosophical arguments. For example, there's this German philosopher, Immanuel Kant, in Germany. He says, why should we not steal? Well, it's simple, if everybody stole, nobody will want to work. Because when I work hard and I get something, we will steal it anyway, so what's the point of me working? I might as well steal from others. So there'll be disorder in society. So he looked at the idea of universal behavior. So this thing happens, the danger. So this one is a negative, looking at it negatively. So positively, we should work hard, then we earn it. That's fair, then we are happy. And then you go on from there, you argue deeper and deeper. So essentially, another way of looking at it is self-good. We can also talk about self-good. So notice in this last sutta, Attarakita Sutta, the Buddha is saying you have to help yourself. If you don't help yourself, you don't protect yourself, no one will protect you, really protect you. Of course, the Buddha is not denying that an army, can't protect a king or a powerful person. He can, but ultimately, if this person is evil, even the army won't protect him anymore. They will fall in the end. They will suffer in the end. A bad ruler will suffer in the end. Look at the great leaders of the world. They, in the end, they're evil. And somehow, they will fail. They will die miserably. If they somehow manage to fool the people, history will know. And we'll remember them for what they've done. Okay? Any other comments or feedback? Right, so we end this study with three beautiful stories. Then next volume we'll go on to volume 39. Yeah? We have some very new volumes to study. Volume 39, what is the theme? On karma, yes, a very useful volume. Yeah? The volume is ready, so next week we'll continue the new volume. I'll spend a short time reflecting now to close this study. Once again, we have happily, successfully completed our study of one whole volume, volume 38 on love and compassion. Self-love is the most common truth that's found in everybody, for all levels, whether good or bad. And by the same token, argues the Buddha, the ancient Buddhist philosophers, if we love ourselves, therefore we should love others too. If we understand the nature of self-love and we broaden it, then we can live happily together. Because what we do not want others to do to us, we should not do to others too. What we want others to do to us, we should do that to others too. So reflecting in this way, it makes sense to be good and kind to others. That to live the good life is possible. And the good life also means to be able to cultivate our minds, to be free, ultimately to be free from all suffering. Reflecting in this way, we create very good mental karma. But the power of this karma and all the various other good things we have done, our faith in the three jewels, our efforts to study the Dharma, our kindness and generosity, keeping the precepts, keeping our mind at peace, and wishing goodness and happiness to others. By power of all this good karma, may we attain calmness even now in this life itself, quickly focusing when we meditate. Above all, may we attain spiritual liberation, at least dream winning in this life itself. in this moment of peace, to let us send out our loving kindness to all beings, wherever they may be. May they be well, may they be happy. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.